On today's show, it's a fistful of filament. Hey, welcome to The First Layer. My name's Richard Cleveland. I'm your host here on The First Layer 3 times a week. I'm so glad that you're with me today. As you can see, I have a lot of orange boxes in front of me, and each one of them is loaded with a different filament. So today what we're doing is we're going to talk a little bit about filaments. Recently over on our Facebook page, there's been a couple of questions about differences in filaments and what they are, and what temperatures do you have to print them at, and is there any other special stuff that they need to know? So what we're going to do today is we're going to start running through some of those filaments, and we're going to start with the most common filament, and that is PLA. We have a box of spool 3D PLA here. I'm just going to open it up for you. It's a beautiful orange color. This filament in particular, I want to tell you what the printing temperatures are and if there's any special sort of caveats to them. So with this PLA, this is 1.75 orange filament. This is to be printed between 190 and 230 on the nozzle, and on the bed 60 to 80 Celsius. Now you can print PLA without any heat on your bed. I like to print with heat on the bed because it just helps that PLA to stick a little bit more. When you're printing with PLA, you definitely do not want to have your PLA having air blown on the first layer. You want your part cooling fan to start at the second or maybe even the third layer. That way it's going to stick to the layer beneath it, it's all going to stick to the bed, and you're going to do just great. And if you followed our previous video on getting the first layer extrusion right, you should have no problem printing PLA. You can print this with any machine that's on the market today, any PLA. We just happen to have spool 3D PLA here today, but you can print this again with any type of 3D printer, with the exception of SLA and DLP printers. Now the next in line is probably the second most popular type of filament, and that's ABS. Now ABS, you print this stuff between 230 and, well, in this case, for this particular brand, it's 190 to 230. Most brands are between 230 and 250 out there on the market today. And ABS, a couple of things about ABS. One, you need to have an enclosure, like I have back here on the Creality, or not Creality, but the Wanhao Duplicator 6. We've got some ABS going in there right now. You do need an enclosure because the environment around the print needs to be controlled. So if you have a room that has an air conditioner, or you have kids running by, or it's near a window, that can cause problems with your ABS. And the problems that you're going to see is quick shrinkage, so you'll see warping on the bed, you'll see splitting of the layers, and that is all due to having a breeze of any type hitting your print surface. So ABS must be printed at a higher temperature. Your bed temperature should be right around 90 to 110, somewhere in there if you're printing with ABS. It does off gas, so there is a fairly bad smell to it. So it's not recommended to be open air printed, especially if you have kids or pets or anything like that. But you can print it if you've got an enclosed machine like the D6 in the back. And I use it myself all the time, so it's a decent little filament to use. Now, there's also low warp ABS. Now, some of the differences between low warp and traditional ABS is this is a little bit more expensive. It doesn't warp nearly as badly, but you still do need an enclosure to print with this stuff. Your printing temperature is going to be between 190 and 240, and 85 to 100 on your print bed for this particular type of ABS. Excuse me. Now, the third most popular, and the one that I recommend for a lot of people that want to go to ABS, is PETG. Now I'm showing you all the boxes here. Let's show some filament. So this is the dark green PETG. Now PETG is the same stuff that your water bottles are made from. Now that doesn't mean that all PETGs are going to be food safe. They have to have an FDA approval on the box to be considered food safe. Now, a lot of them aren't going to come with that. You can use this to hold different things. You can make cookie cutters out of it. Couple of caveats to PETG is it has the same type of printability as PLA, so there's no smell. You do need to have a higher bed temperature and a higher nozzle temperature to print with this. This stuff strings a little bit more. It's not subjected to warping as much as ABS is, and it's not subject to splitting like ABS is, but you're going to get a little bit more stringing with this. You're going to print this stuff between 200 and 240 and 75 to 85 on your bed. You may want to adjust those temperatures based on the type of printer that you're using. Now, again, all the things that we're going to show you today are 1.75, just because that's the most popular thickness of material. The PETG, I really like printing with this stuff because if I'm doing something that needs strength, out of all of the different materials that we have to show you today, out of the first three, probably your best bet is going to be PETG for both strength, durability, and flexibility, even over ABS. So it has more strength than ABS, it has more durability, and it's a little bit more forgiving in flexibility when it comes to parts as well. So PETG is what Prusa uses to do all the parts for their 3D printers. That'll give you some indication. Now, next on the list, we've got ASA. Now, let's go to ASA here because it is an interesting, I've got my notes in front of me here. All right, so let's see if we can find ASA on here. Of course, we can't, not on this list, but on this list, I've got it. Now, ASA has decent strength. And I know I'm using all the same brand here, but that's because it's convenient and I can grab it. ASA prints between 200 and 250. As far as strength goes, it's not as, well, it's about the same strength as PETG. It is a little bit more difficult to print with. It has about the same durability as ABS, and it is not flexible at all, so it's very rigid plastic after it's printed, and your base plate should be between 80 and 100. Is this a good material to print with? Not really. If you're a newcomer to 3D printing, I would say no. Don't use ASA for printing because this is a styrene. So this is almost like the same material that your model kits are made from. So any model kit that you find on the shelf or on the market today are all made from a similar plastic. This has styrene in it, so it can be glued with normal glues. It's an okay filament. I've never used it myself, but maybe we'll experiment with it sometime in the very near future. What do you think? Should we experiment with it? Oh, there we go. We got the two fingers up. Jess is in the studio with us today. Now, we want to go to, now all of these that I've showed you so far, right up to the ASA, can all be printed on a normal FDM printer. You can use any type of adhesion method that you want. I recommend glue stick, as everybody knows. And you can use glue stick on all these. You can use magic glue, you can use hairspray, whatever whatever floats your boat, I guess. The next one we're going to talk about is this stuff. It's called PMMA, or let me see if I can get this out. I'm reading my notes. This is polymethyl acrylate. I know I messed that up. I'm sure I did. Let's try that one more time. I had the words here. Now where did it go? Polymethyl acrylate. Wow, there's a lot of meths in there. Okay.
What is this, Breaking Bad?
There's a lot of meth in there. All right, let's try
Not
it.
even blue.
3, 2, 1. All right, so the next one on our list is PMMA, or polymethyl methacrylate. I messed that up, but that's okay. There's a lot of meths in there, and no, this is not Breaking Bad. This is not the kind of meth you want in your house or mess with. But PMMA, for lack of a better word, is very similar to plexiglass. In the way that it prints, it's a very strong material. It does need a much higher temperature to print with. In the case of the Spool 3D, it's 190 to 230. So very similar in that case to our ABS. Our base plate should be between 60 and 80. It is clear. It is not food safe. So just so you're aware of that, it is not food safe. It does have some strength to it. It can be glued just like you would ABS with acetone. Again, I would, because this has a plastic in it that gives off a vapor, an invisible vapor, I would definitely print this with an enclosure as well. Next on our list is nylon. There's two different nylons. There's a nylon 6 and a nylon 12. What are the differences? The nylon 12 is a little stronger. The nylon 6 is a little weaker. Nylon by nature absorbs water in the air very, very quickly. So when you're not using this material, you must put it into a Ziploc bag with a desiccant pack, and you may want to dry it before using it using either your oven or a toaster oven. We're going to get into how to dry your filaments in a later episode, but for right now, nylon is a very tough plastic. As you know, it's something that I recommend for a lot of people that are doing products that need to have a lot of strength. I would definitely go to the nylons. And again, nylon can come in many different colors. Next to that, we've got the PC Plus, or polycarbonate. Now, there is a carbonate filament. We don't carry it over here, but you can find it online. It's just called carbonate, and it is a filament. Now, the polycarbonate, probably out of all of these, is the strongest material to use when you're making parts. If you want to make something that's very heat resistant, it has a pretty high glass transition temperature. It's quite good for doing parts for your car. Although you can use ABS and you can use nylons, polycarbonate is probably the easier to print with out of them all. Again, I would use this stuff as an alternative to ABS or PETG. Very good. You can get it in multiple colors as well. This stuff starts at 235 C and goes up to 260 on your nozzle temperature, and you're going to want your bed to be able to get up to 120 using polycarbonate. So much higher temperatures when printing with this. Next we have soft PLA, or flexible PLA. Different from TPUs and TPEs, which we're going to talk about. This probably shore hardness wise has about a 60 shore hardness. It's very flexible. It stretches quite a bit. If you have a flexible extruder setup on your machine, you should be able to print with the soft PLA fairly easily. It does print between 190 and 230. The base plate should be between 60 and 80. So very similar temperatures to regular PLA down at the front. Now, TPU is a better flexible material. This is somewhat chemical resistant. Again, it is a flexible, so you could use this as gaskets and that kind of material. It's great for that kind of stuff. If you're making tires for your RC cars or parts that are going to come in contact with some of the liquids that you have for your RC cars, like the fuel, greases, oils, that kind of stuff. This is the stuff you want to use for doing that. And this stuff prints at 220 to 240 and 75 to 85 on the bed. It's fine for engine oil as well, yeah.
So if you lost the engine oil gasket?
Yeah, you can make gaskets out of it. I don't know if I'd put it in my car for that, but maybe for a RC car, sure. TPE 80 and TPE 90. These are two different shore hardness materials. This is about an 80, the TPU is about an 80 shore hardness. What the shore hardness is what kind of strength it takes to tear through the material. TPE is a great material if you want to make molds, flexible molds. Both of these are very good for that. And you can make flexible molds using your 3D printer, and we'll show that at some point down the road. But both of these, again, two different shore hardnesses, depending on if you want a stiffer flexible plastic or not so stiff. So that's what TPE is. Now, next to that, we have HIPS. Now, HIPS is a supportive material. You can use it as a breakaway support material. It prints anywhere between 230 and 240, 95 to 105 on the bed. Again, you can use any type of adhesion method that you like to get your HIPS to stay down to your bed. Now, I would not use HIPS with PLA on the CRX. Many people, there's been a big discussion about this, and many people have approached me because I've said in the past that the CRX is not a multi-material 3D printer. And if you look at the documentation that comes with the CRX, it specifically states that it is a multi-color printer, not a multi-material. Because you have only one extruder, you don't have dual extruders on, or pardon me, you have one nozzle. You don't have dual nozzles on that particular printer. So it has to do a purge block every time, or a purge layer every time. And this particular material, the HIPS material, which is right here, I don't think will work very well if you're using the CRX. But it is a great material as a support material. Now, beyond that, we have PVA. Now, PVA is also a support material. All right, moving on to PVA, this is also a support material. This prints at a much lower temperature, 190 to 220, and you don't need any heat on the bed for this stuff. This might work with PLA on a CRX. I've not tried it. I've not discussed it yet. But because of its printing temperatures, it may work for you. Now, PVA is a support material. It is a breakaway support material. So again, you're only buying this to throw it in the garbage at the end of the day. Okay? And then our last two over here is PEI. Now, you might recognize this next one. It's called PEI. PEI is the same stuff that we buy for our beds as a printing surface. This particular material can be printed. It needs a much higher temperature to print. Its glass transition temperature is 214 Celsius. So it's got a fairly high glass transition temperature. It only comes in half weights. So you're going to get this at 500 grams instead of 1 kilogram. What else do you guys want to know about this? It requires a heated chamber, and its natural color is amber, very much like you're going to see. Now, I've never printed with this, but you do need a fairly robust printer to print with this stuff. You need a 290 to 330 temperature range, and your bed must be able to go up to 140. because your bed is going to start at 100 and go up to 140 to get this to stick. Again, I've never tried it, but it is a filament that is out there. Now PCL, which is the next one we're going to look at, polycarbonate lactate, in 3, 2, 1. So the last one in our lineup here is PCL. What is PCL? Well, PCL is a material that you can print with at much lower temperatures, so it is a lower temp material. This can be reshaped after printing, so that's kind of nice. I'm not sure what applications I would use this for, but it is available. Your printing temperatures on this are 70 to 140, so really, really low temperatures, but it is an option. So PCL is an option for you. I think I've tried printing with it once. This is great stuff that you can print with in 3D printer pens. This is great for that if you've got a 3D printer pen. But I don't know if you want a 1 kilogram roll for a 3D printer pen. And you don't need a heated bed to print with this stuff. You can warm it up in your hands. You can warm it up in a bowl of warm water, that kind of thing. Some other specialties I want to talk about really quickly before we wrap up our look at these different filaments. You're going to notice first and foremost I left out wood and I left out all of the fibrous materials. We're going to talk about those on a special episode when we get into a little bit more detail and tell you the things that you're going to need to do to your printer to be able to print with those. We have an IGUS filament. This is the same type of material that IGUS bearings are made from. This particular stuff, what does it say here? So it's 90 to 100 C for the temperature. This is all written in German, so bear with me. It is the first tribo filament for 3D printers, up to 50 times more abrasion resistant. So again, it's just very much the same similar plastic to what IGUS bearings are made from. It's a processable by any 3D printer where you could use standard ABS filaments. And yeah, your temperatures are pretty low to print with this. So, because it doesn't say what temperature you need. 180 to print with this. So that's not bad. This is very expensive though, so think about that. The other one that we have is PVB. This stuff prints at a very low temperature, 190 to 220 and 80 on the bed. It's very similar to a PLA. And then finally we have P-glass. All right, so last but not least, we've got P-glass. And what P-glass is this is a good all-around material for, let's just see here. It's a nylon style filament. I've never used this before. Again, it needs a little higher printing temperature, 230 to 250. And on your bed, I believe you want to have, there's something on here, 100 to 110. It's located on the bottom. It is a premium quality filament, so it's like a PETG and a polycarbonate kind of mixed as one. Fairly strong, good for parts, that kind of stuff. Some people have had great success with it, other people haven't. I don't know if you need a enclosure for it. I don't think you do, but just to be on the safe side, check it out for yourself. So that's a look at all of the different filaments today. Now we are going to wrap things up. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at different filaments. I hope it gave you some information. You don't have to buy this specific brand of filament. You can buy whatever filament suits you. If you are going to buy Spool 3D filament, you can get it at spool3d.ca. And we want to thank them for giving us this wonderful studio to work in and providing us with all of the different materials that we have on the desk today. We do have to put them back in the warehouse when we're done though. So we're going to spend an hour cleaning up when we're done. But, well, maybe we'll just get Jess to do it for an hour. So with that said, guys, yeah, if you're looking at buying filaments, you want to get them from Spool 3D, go to spool3d.ca, check out all the different filaments that they have there. Remember, if you're in Canada, your orders are shipped free over $140. So if your order is $140 or more, you can get free shipping to anywhere in Canada. I want to make that specifically clear. So we're going to thank Spool 3D. Print it right, print it with Spool 3D. They've got everything you need, from filaments to printers and all the parts and accessories for your next printing project or upgrade. So check them out today at spool3d.ca. Print it right, print it with Spool 3D. That's, I forgot to say the tagline. I want to thank my wonderful staff, as always. In the house today, we've got the lovely Jess Corniching, working hard. There she is. She's making sure I get all my notes right. And she's working hard behind the desk today. We want to thank Frank Awesome for his hard work on Wednesdays, and of course Brian Baker and my lovely wife Jerry, who work behind the scenes to help us bring you new content. And she does all the cleaning of my models. I have to say that to my audience, because if I don't, I have to sleep on the couch, because she does do it. I also want to thank again you guys for tuning in. If you're new here, please remember to, oh, let me just grab this. There you go. Please remember to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell and give us a thumbs up if you liked what we were talking about today. And we'll go from there. I also want to remind you that if you are interested in being a supporter of the show, not just watching the show, but you want to get involved and help us to upgrade things here in the studio, you can do so by going to buymeacoffee.com, and that is buymeacoffee.com/thefirstlayer, and you can get us a coffee. We all love coffee. See, I even got coffee in my cup today. And I want to thank my Patreons for putting up with me, and from their support we were able to get the new PC in the studio. We still have a few things to do, but we are recording on it now, so thank you very much for that. If you want to become a Patreon, you can go over to patreon.com/thefirstlayer and go ahead and sign up for one of the monthly commitments there. Now, that's pretty much it. We're done for a Monday. So you guys go and have a great week. We're going to see you again on Wednesday for our live stream, and I promise we won't have technical difficulties this time. So you guys go ahead, have yourselves a great weekend. We'll see you then, and always remember that the first layer is your foundation to a great print.